What's up, Steelers and Friendzonies? Thanks for tuning back into another Keeping It Real with Danie Steele. So let's get right into it. You've probably seen or heard about the poem that Aoki Lee Simmons wrote about her feelings towards, I guess, white girls, other girls, white women, about her feelings about, basically living as a woman of color in, predominantly white society. Particularly in her case, going to predominantly white schools and living in predominantly white neighborhoods. I love her poetry. I love what she has to say. I love when she gets online and expresses her thoughts because, this is an experience as old as Little Rock, I believe. Where the first black girl had to be escorted by police into a white school. And not a lot of people that have the particular experience that she's talking about are willing to speak up about that experience because it's going to cost them. One of the things that I love about her speaking up about it is I definitely didn't, I didn't have the accessibility or the resources or capability to share those things when I was her age online, to a large scale audience. It wasn't even an option. That's how old I am. Till as old as time. Okay. I'm old. Okay. I didn't have the ability to do that. But I think if I did have the ability, I would hesitate. I would be afraid of the judgment. So I love the fact that she is so unafraid to tell her story because there's so many people who feel othered in this predominantly white society who tell their story and they have no problem telling their story and sharing their lived experiences, and everybody listens and everybody gathers around and it's totally okay. But when black people do it, it's shut up and get out of here. And a lot of that shut up and get out of here comes from other black people. That ain't right. All right, so get it together. I believe, and people were saying that she's 18, but I believe she's actually 16, maybe turning 17, but she's not 18. She's a kid. She's a kid. She's a teenager. She's a young girl. And the courage that she's expressing is exactly what Monique was talking about in her interview that a lot of people lack. Too many people lack. For so many people to complain about their situation. She doesn't get online and complain about her situation. She does something about it. She expresses it. She shares it. She doesn't wait till she's 30-something years old to get online and start complaining about how, oh, now she realizes how this is messed up and that is messed up. She's doing something about it now. I grew up in a very chaotic life. And if social media was around when I was in my teens and I was bopping around from foster home to foster home, and you could hear how these foster parents talk to me, how they let their kids talk to me, and see the creepy men that they let live there, and hear the conversations that caseworkers telling me shut the hell up and just do what foster parents are telling me, even though it was detrimental to my schooling, cracking jokes on me 24/7. You would have gotten all of that, but those days are gone. Okay, so now I'm an adult living my best life, and I don't have a chaotic life. You know what I'm saying? That's on purpose. That's on purpose. I do not have a chaotic life. One thing I'm not going to do is continue to gather around, meet up with, expose myself to people who don't understand how to respect me. And getting respect as a black woman is very difficult. And one thing I love about Aoki Lee Simmons is that she's so woke. I hate how people use the term woke nowadays because they try to make it a bad thing. But in its best form, you can see it with Aoki. I swear to God, she reminds me so much of so many young students that I have that are so smart and just woke and ready to do things differently. And I have nothing but admiration for that. Aoki deserves nothing but support when it comes to her poetry from everybody, honestly. However she chooses to express herself. Again, like I said, anyone that feels othered, even the ones that don't feel othered, right, gets to express themselves, except for black women or women that are, closer to the side of black when it comes to the spectrum of women of color. A lot of black people are trying to be like, oh, well, be quiet, you're light skinned, you're rich, and, you're mixed, and you have privilege amongst us. What y'all don't understand is she's not amongst you. So in reality, she actually doesn't have privilege amongst you. You see what I'm saying? Like, she doesn't live in a hood. She doesn't live in a black community. She doesn't live in a black neighborhood. She doesn't live in the ghetto. She doesn't live around black people. She doesn't go to black school. So she's not competing with you. She's competing with the white girls around her, the white females around her. And that's why she expressed that she, has these jealousies, because it's clear as day that, that women of color and black women do not have the same experiences that white women have. And that's not divisive. What's divisive is telling black women and women of color that they're being divisive for speaking about their lived experience. What's divisive is never doing anything to actually make the world a better place. That's divisive. What's divisive is sitting around in your obvious privilege and doing nothing to make this world a more equitable, fair place. That's divisive. That's what's causing all the divisiveness. Not people speaking about their lived experience. Like, what's happened has happened, right? This is happening, and this is her lived experience. She's observing, even with her family's wealth, she's observing colorism. She's observing the white females and women, girls that she goes to school with, having a different experience than she's having. And that's facts. If you aren't put in that situation, you wouldn't know. What she experienced is what a lot of black kids that have that experience continue to have to experience. It's ridiculous. Being treated obviously differently. I remember I was in high school, the senior year. I had perfect attendance, 4 years. 4 years of perfect attendance every day in high school. I grew up in foster care. I didn't have lunch money. I didn't let anything stop me because I wanted to prove something, not just to myself, but to other people, that being a black woman, being in foster care, I was more than their expectations. A judge came to visit the school, and he was talking about credit, and he was talking about how his wife, got him in debt. And I think I even know these people, which is a different story. But the point is, I raised my hand as a senior in high school, and was like, you do realize you're in an all-girls school. I went to a private all-girls school. And a teacher gave me a detention for that. I had never gotten a detention. There was no reason for me to be in trouble. I'd been class president. That's another thing too. I was also class president of majority white girls. In my senior year, the vice principal of the school came to me and said, you can't run for class president because other kids deserve a chance. I deserve a chance. It's not my fault that people voted for me. I deserve a chance. But because these people, a lot of them are white, or their parents were paying, I was in school on scholarship, I was the foster kid. I didn't have anyone to advocate for me in these spaces. I was treated horribly. Parents would make jokes, black jokes at me. I remember one time I was playing basketball, and the girl I was playing basketball with elbowed me in my eye, and her father gave me a ride home after the practice. And I said, oh, your daughter gave me a black eye. He said, Danielle, it was already black. This is what a grown man said to me when I was in high school. It was nothing. Talking to me like that was nothing. And they would even not talk to other black girls like that whose parents they knew would come in and raise hell. I saw it firsthand. I was wondering, why is this person's dad always coming into the school and raising hell? And it's because he didn't want his daughter to have the experience that I had. That's why. He knew that even with his money, it's still not enough. You got to put these people in their place and let them understand that your kid matters too. You don't know what it's like to live in a predominantly white society just because you go to the store, or even if you go to work, especially when you're a kid. I'm going to do a video about the differences between public and private school because, again, there's just so many things that black people don't understand the differences between that white people understand, and that's why the society is the way that it is, because white people have an understanding of the differences that black people don't understand. They know what you don't have. I've talked about this before. They know what you don't have. You don't know what they have. She has every right to share her experience. Could I relate when I was her age to that experience? Absolutely. You're in predominantly white institutions, and you're picked on because of race. You're picked on because of colorism. You're made the example of. I remember I was late once getting into school when I was in college because I lived on the last stop off the fucking L train in Brooklyn. Straight up. BK, stand up. Okay. I lived off the last stop off the L train in Brooklyn, and everybody else got to live in the fucking West Village. I came from foster care. I had no support. Teacher made an example of me. Everybody stood around and looked. Nobody said anything to me. Cussed me the fuck out because I was like 5 minutes late. She's like, you'll never be late to my class again, yada, yada, yada. And I sat back and watched and saw, like, is she gonna talk to other people the way she just talked to me? She never did. She never did. She never did. And there are people who were late 5 minutes, a lot longer. She never did. They love making an example out of us. They love ruining the experience that we're having. We're paying the same amount of money to go to college. We're not having the same experiences. I promise you. So big ups to young Queen Aoki for speaking her truth, living in her truth. Y'all want to live in a bubble that doesn't exist. Y'all want to pretend life isn't happening that's happening. You can't tell someone whose lived experience is in predominantly white institutions since they were a child and predominantly white neighborhoods and white family members that, oh, I'm not jealous of white girls. Okay, you're not around them. You don't have to compete with them. One thing I want young Aoki to know, though, is, you know, it only gets better as you get older, baby, you know what I'm saying? I mean, at the end of the day, you realize life is what it is. Patriarchy wasn't provided for us so that we had protection, so that we're not in these spaces being G'd and punked and feeling left out and othered and ostracized. So I'm just gonna make the best of life and make it do what it do and live for me. You realize that as you get older because, I mean, it's extraordinary the difference between me and my husband, the difference between the way that we're treated in a single event. It's extraordinary. Like I said, I'm gonna do a video on the difference between private and public schools. I was watching a video that had shouted out Mike, Big Mike, on 106 in Park, and he was having a conversation with them about the differences between public and private schools. And he was talking about something that I've often talked about on my channel, which is that other communities of color, people that are not a part of the predominant white society, they insulate their children. They don't send their children into a lion's den of stereotypes and false expectations and bullying and otherness and being ostracized. They don't send their kids into that all willy-nilly, like it's just okay. That's how they have to experience their childhood. They don't do that. They insulate, as Big Mike was saying, they insulate their children. They have schools for their children. They homeschool or have entire schools for their children. And you be like, no, they don't. Yeah, they do. Look it up. You see, y'all don't know. Just because you don't know something doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay? So they protect their children so that by the time they're 13 and time to go into more prestigious or elite middle schools or high schools, they're prepared and they're filled. You know, Big Mike was saying, if that's not his name, I apologize. I don't really know much about him. But he was saying, you know, I went to an all-black school and I had black teachers. And so by the time I interacted with white kids, I felt they're equal. Let me tell you something. When you're sending your kids into schools with people who have an opinion about your race, it doesn't change just because now the person in the race is 5. It's irresponsible. I've said it before on this channel. Malcolm X says a million times, who sends their children to be taught by their enemies, right? Because y'all the ones that want to say that these, you know, this is your enemy, right? And then you send your children to school with them, and then you get mad if they start dating them. You get mad if they have feelings of jealousness around the predominant society when racism is real and colorism is real. I know from my experience going to prestigious, predominantly white institutions, private Catholic schools, okay, structure was intense. And I had to do what kids who had parents, who had a mom, who had a dad, who had wealth, who had resources, I had to do what they were doing or be kicked out back into the chaos as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, like I said, I grew up in the 90s, crack epidemic, all that fucking chaos and shit. I had to compete with those kids. Yes, I did. Those kids, not the kids in the hood that I lived around. I didn't have to compete with them. I didn't go to school with them. I didn't play sports with them afterwards. I didn't do honor society shit with them after school. I didn't go hang out in the suburbs at their homes. right? So I had to compete with the girls that I was in school with. I had to compete with them academically, socially, and if I didn't, nobody cared. Our experiences are real too. We deserve to share our experiences. As I've said before, I have a lot of friends from the Black diaspora. I have a lot of friends from Jamaica and the Caribbean, you know, etc., Africa, etc., right? Even though they went to white schools, they had their family unit. They had structure at home. They weren't going back to Black America's sprinkling crack on their parents' bullshit. Chaos everywhere, foster care. They didn't go back to that. So now I'm talking about my experience. That's a mental mind fuck. I'm not jealous of them. You're not around them. I didn't ask to be around them. I was put in these schools when I was 5 years old. I didn't ask for it. I did not. I don't think anyone would ask for that. Ruby, I believe Ruby D is her name. Ruby something, right? Little black girl, she didn't ask to have to go to that school and have to be escorted by cops for her protection. All these black girls having roommates, doing disgusting, nasty things, spitting in their food and putting period stuff on their beds. They didn't ask for that. We're the ones that they're coming to and saying, why is your hair like that? What's going on? Why is A$AP Rocky in jail? Why does Meghan Markle, like, why are you asking me about every black person like I know? We're the ones that gotta deal with that shit, okay? So, props Aoki. More of us need to share our experiences, period. You're not gonna do shit to me and expect me not to share that shit. I'm going to be sharing it. I have a lot of experiences to share with you guys because people try to play me because I'm a black woman. I'm a dark-skinned black woman. You're not dark-skinned, you brown-skinned. Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here, all that skin tone bullshit. I don't give a fuck what you say about my lived experience. Oh, I'm a dark-skinned black woman. And a lot of people have tried to come for me. And I'm about to air all this shit too on some, in the spirit of Aoki. Okay, you don't fuck with people and think you're gonna get away with it. No, you don't. Y'all know I don't like that shit. So, I'm definitely going to be sharing more of my experiences. Like I said, I'm in a good place, but it's always good to unpack. It's always good to be transparent. All right, thanks so much for watching, you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what your experience has been like in school. Going to a school where there's some white kids in the school is a lot different than all of the teachers being white, all the administration being white, most of the other students being white, etc. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you guys think about the poem and everything. I'm gonna try to put the poem somewhere in this video. If possible, too. But it's already out there on YouTube. I thought it was a great poem, like I said, and courage is beautiful. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Bye. That is nasty. Look at that.